Hi, I'm Big Bear.
And I'm Little Bear.
And welcome to BrownBear Wargaming. Run VT.
Boop, 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 boop.
Hi everyone, welcome back to BrownBear Wargaming. Today we'd like to teach you how to play the game of Warhammer 40,000 in a really simple way. Isn't that right, Little Bear?
Yeah.
So we were lucky enough to find out that we were actually entered into a tournament, our very first tournament in a couple of weeks' time. So in order to prepare, yes, we've been painting models and they look great, but it's a good idea if you're going to a tournament to actually know how to play the game. So we dug out the rule book and we started to make our way to understand the rules.
I mean, once you start to learn the rules, it's pretty simple, because once you know it really.
If you've not bought a starter set of any sort that comes with the core rules, don't worry. If you go to the website in the description down below, you can download a copy of the Warhammer 40,000 core rules. So next up, you're going to need to get yourself 2 armies. One for you, one for your partner. My army I've chosen is a Space Marine chapter called the Raven Guard. Nice and sneaky little guys. Little Bear, he has chosen the Orcs. He likes the green skin, he likes the big choppers and the different weapons. A couple of other things you'll need to play are you're going to need your own measuring tape. Our BrownBear Wargaming one, for example, works just fine, and you're going to need lots and lots of dice. So the game itself consists of battle rounds. Now in this demo, we're just going to show you 1 battle round per player. In general rules, you might have 3 rounds each, sometimes 5, depends on the size of the game. The first thing, before we do any of that though, is we need to roll the dice to see who gets to deploy first. Now, when deploying your army, there's loads of different rules in the game, but in the simplest way, we're going to set up a deployment zone 12 inches from the back of the board. So just like Little Bear's doing here, a good idea is to use some dice or counters or whatever you've got just to show where that 12 inches lies. That way you know how far you can and can't move your models up to before the start of the first round. So players take it in turn to deploy 1 unit at a time. That way you can use your tactics to help you decide what you're going to do against your opponent once you can see where they've placed their units. We've only got 1 unit in this game, so it's very straightforward. Now let's get into the battle round proper. First up is the command phase. Now in the command phase, players use their strategic resources and tactical abilities to try and gauge the flow of the battle, consolidate objectives and make alterations. Now right now we're not going to be doing anything with the command phase, so we're going to skip this point, but it is useful when you're starting to get into the game a bit more to understand these rules a bit more, because this is where you get command points back and you can use them strategically to really help your army in a bigger battle. But right now, let's just move past this.
Ooh. 2.
Next up we have the movement phase, and this is where basically you're going to be moving your units if you choose to. Now each unit has their own data sheet. It might be in a codex, or it might also be found online. Apps such as Battlescribe give you all the same information. The data sheet tells you how far each unit can move. These Space Marine intercessors can move 6 inches. So we measure 6 inches and we move them forward, and then the rest of the unit follow suit.
Three.
Next up is the psychic phase, where if your army has warriors and sorcerers with mystic powers, they can try and charge them and set them off, and for some armies these are absolutely devastating, but I haven't got any, so we're just going to skip past this bit. If you want to find out about this more, I'm sure there's plenty of other videos on YouTube for you to watch. Yes! Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the shooty phase. In the shooting phase, you need to look at your unit's data sheet. For these intercessors, I can see that they've got some nice meaty bolt rifles, and they can shoot 30 inches, it says. and the intercessors have a ballistic skill of 3+. So that just means that I've got to roll a 3 or more to hit. Here we go. Pretty good, shooty. So however many of these dice are 3 or higher mean they have hit an orc. Now I need to see if I can wound them. So I need to look at my data sheet again. I can see that the strength of my bolt rifle is 4, but the toughness of these orc boys is a 5. Because of that, that means I need to roll a 5 or more in order to wound these orcs. So let's see how I do. Not so good. So now Little Bear has to perform a saving roll for these 2 wounds. Looking at his data sheet, you can see that he has a saving roll of 6+. There is no armor penetration on the bolt rifle, so he needs 6s, otherwise some orc boys are going to snuff it. We know that from the data sheet that each orc has 1 wound, so that means 2 orcs are gone. 5. Next up is the charge phase, where your warriors are going to hurl themselves into close hand-to-hand combat with blades, hammers, claws, and in the case of my intercessors, they're going to headbutt and punch and kick because they haven't got no hand-to-hand combat weapons. But anyway, so measure the distance. These intercessors are 10 inches away from the orcs, which means I need to roll a 9 on 2 dice in order for the charge to work. Let's see how I get on. Nope, that's not good enough, so the charge fails and it doesn't work. Had that charge worked, then my opposition could have declared Overwatch to try and shoot me before I charge into hand-to-hand combat, but we'll save that for another day. Now next up is the fight phase. However, because my intercessors failed their charge, they are not in close combat, so they can't actually make any attacks in this phase, unfortunately. Hopefully, the orcs will make their charge on their turn and we'll be able to see this phase in action.
7.
So the final phase is the morale phase, and this is where players alternate taking morale tests for units from their army that have suffered casualties this turn. So we know we've lost 2 orc boys, so Little Bear needs to roll 1d6, and he has to add the number of models destroyed to this turn. And if we look at the orc boys' leadership, they have a leadership of 6. So Little Bear will need to roll at least 4 or lower in order to pass the morale test. Now luckily Little Bear did pass. Had he failed though, 1 model would flee and the other models would need to take combat attrition tests, and all the rules for that are in this basic rulebook that you can download from the link in the description down below. So that is the end of my turn with my Space Marines. Little Bear now has to follow the same phases for his turn. So first up, because we don't have the command phase, he's going to go straight to the movement phase. His boys can move 5 inches, so he measures 5 inches and he's moved his orcs that little bit further forward. He's now finished his movement phase and he would go into his psychic phase, but because we haven't got any psychers, we're going to move from there straight into the shooting phase. So his orcs have a wide range of different weapons. 2 of them have big shooters and the rest of them have some small pistols. I can't remember the name. We'll call them little shooters. So he has his dice that he needs to roll. Now orcs aren't great at shooting, unfortunately, for Little Bear. They do have a ballistic skill of 5, which means they need to roll 5s in order to hit. Let's see how he gets on. Okay, he's had 2 hits, so now he needs to roll to wound. Now we need to look at the strength and the strength of the weapon versus the toughness of my Space Marines. Now he knows what he needs to roll. He can roll again. Let's see if he can wound. Okay, it looks like we're rolled. So we've got 2 wounds, so now we need to do our saving throws for my Space Marines. We look at the saving throw, and then I roll my 2 dice to save these Marines, and both have passed. So both Marines are still active. Now 2 of Little Bear's orcs have big shooters, so we shoot them separately. He's rolled his dice, he'll follow the same procedure that we've just done to see what he can do. There's his hit roll, his wound roll, and the Space Marines are saved. They live to fight another day. However, the Orcs are now close enough to charge. At this point, my Marines should have declared Overwatch, but we didn't, so we'll let that slide. So because the Orcs have charged in, they get to fight first. Now the good thing with Orcs, looking at their data sheet, is they have big sluggers and choppers to try and attack my Marines' armour. Now Orcs being big mighty green close combat machines, every time they use their chopper they get an extra dice to roll. So in effect they get 2 dice per Orc that is in close to hand-to-hand combat. Lots of dice. The same procedure applies to shooting, except this time you use your weapon skill, and with Orcs the weapon skill is 3+, so it's much easier for them to actually hit when we're in close hand-to-hand combat. The same procedure applies, as in your hit roll, your wound roll, and then your saving roll. Once the Orcs are finished with their close combat, the Space Marines can fight back, and then we can see if we can do any damage to any of those Orcs. And that concludes one full turn of the game of Warhammer 40k in a very, very simple way.
I mean, if you're not sure what to do, just keep checking back on the rulebook and there you go. After you've started collecting your army and you've realised, well, I could do with a proper rulebook. This is a copy of the rulebook from the Command Edition starter set that you get. It's just a simplified version of the really complicated big rulebook. Once you have mastered the basics, you need to start to learn how your army works. For me, I collect Orcs, so this is the codex I would use. If you chose Space Marines, you would use a Space Marine codex. So you have to find your codex and find out your army's specific rules.
Now we've mastered the basic rules of the game, the next thing to do is to go to the tournament itself. However, I know, having looked at the rulebooks and looking at the codexes, that there's far more to the game than this simple overview that we've shown you. You need to introduce stratagems, you have warlord traits, and there's a lot going on. Luckily, the tournament that we're in is only 750 points. And so we'll just have to see how we get on. We can talk more about points and how to create your own detachment for your army in a future video. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I've been Big Bear.
I've been Little Bear.
Happy gaming. Oh, and don't forget, BrownBear Wargaming now has an affiliate link in the description down below. We've got an affiliate link with Wayland Games. Now Wayland Games offer a wide range of different wargaming products, not just Warhammer. They also offer D&D and lots of different products. And the best part is, if you use our link in the description down below, not only do you get up to 20% discount on all your gaming goods, we also get a little bit back, which will help support the channel. So why not hit up Wayland Games in the description down below.
Link in the description.
I'll keep that in.